Thank you very much, and good morning. Have you ever been in an organization where clashing egos have undermined results? Have you ever been in a meeting where one person monopolized the discussion and they didn't even have the best ideas? Have you ever been drawn into a divisive debate where you find yourself protecting and defending your position rather than trying to figure out what the best solution is together? Now, wouldn't it be great to have a process, a way, to avoid all those problems and to indeed create the kind of quality decisions that we so critically need? A process that you could use in a Fortune 500 company to be more successful, that you could also employ in your community work to make it more rewarding. A way that you could catapult through the difficulties of a startup business and get it to high growth, and also to help our troubled and difficult governmental policy decisions get resolved, things that are stymieing our ability to move forward together. Well, it was over 10 years ago that I discovered the elements of exactly such a process. And that discovery for me was truly a revelation. It was so powerful, in fact, that I dedicated myself over the last 10 years to further researching, developing, and applying that process. And I've done that with dozens of organizations and thousands of people across the country. And in the course of doing that, people have been reading about it through my business column. They've been hearing of it through word of mouth. It gets out through the emails. And I've been getting interesting emails from corporate managers in Seattle, from government executives in Sacramento, from law firms in New York, from the Coca-Cola distributor in Uzbekistan, all wanting to know how could they apply these techniques and approaches, and how could they do that to deal with the difficult issues that in every one of those very diverse circumstances were rising up and creating exactly the problems that you were identifying with at the start of this talk. Now, what I'd like to do with you today is to give you the experience of what this process is like, so that you can go away from today's session with a real feeling for what is this like? How can this work? What could we do in our day-to-day activities to do the small things that will make a big difference? And that's really what this is about, small things that make a big difference. Because as an entrepreneur, I always look for what's the easiest and most effective way to get the job done. And that's what I've found with this process, is that small changes in the process that we use for our decisions makes a huge difference in how people show up, how they interact, and the kinds of results we get. So what I'll be sharing with you are these stories and examples so that you can get as much as possible a feeling of this and even sort of act out a bit of what these are like so you can sense what happens in the dynamics of this. You'll be getting a number of things from this discussion. One is you'll be getting the two key questions you can ask to turn around any difficult situation. Very important things to know. You'll see a step that will show you how you can make the most divisive debates evaporate in your organization and get 100% exchange of information in a constructive way. And you'll see what are the ways that you can bring out the best in people so that you can accomplish the purposes that you share. So that in fact you'll be seeing what it is to create the great decisions that we all strive for. Now, if we had a half-day workshop or a full-day workshop together, what we'd actually be doing is taking some very tough issue that you're facing, the toughest one that you have, and you'd be learning the process while deciding that issue, so that you would be like the person who is learning to fish and also catches a fish. But today we'll be talking through stories and examples as your vehicle to experience it in this large group. So let me start with a story. It's the story of Tim's team. Now, Tim started with a new job. He's very senior in his career, came from one of the top think tanks in the world, and was hired by one of the premier computer companies to create an elite research and development team. So he thought he was on the top of the world because he had an open checkbook to hire the best and the brightest from wherever they were, out of academia, out of commercial experience, wherever they might be. So he thought, wow, this is an outstanding opportunity. Open checkbook, world-class advisory board, a great mission, which was to figure out how to make computers dramatically easier to use and to do that effectively. So he thought he had everything lined up. But then the people showed up. It was time to get going. So he had Mark, a hard-charging New Yorker, who developed already a new product for computers and had ideas for lots more. And Mark would sometimes show up at team meetings, and sometimes he'd avoid them and just sit in his office and do his projects because other people just bothered him and sort of distracted his focus, and he couldn't seem to get done what he wanted to get done. And then there was Ivan from Eastern Europe, and Ivan was a software architecture guru. He could hold forth for hours about what philosophically is the right software approach to use and what's not, and why, and really mixed it up in the debate. And then there was Lisa from Atlanta, and she was putting together a user group to help see and test out these ideas to see how it is that people actually use computers and how they would respond to these different ideas. And there were 6 more people in this group in addition to Tim. There were psychologists, graphic designers, software programmers, a wide diversity. And what Tim discovered is that when he got them together, they started to argue about which way to go, what way they should pursue their potential common interests, and whether they should even have a common software architecture, which was a big issue for them. Because how could they bring all these different ideas together and get the kind of tools that customers would want, which is an integrated system that works together rather than different pieces that are different researchers' ideas. And yet they were all fearful in a deep, fundamental way about what they were going to lose by working together. Whose idea would prevail? Which software architecture would favor one approach versus another? What was going to happen through all this? And the fears just mounted. Have you seen that in the organizations you work with? Tough issues come up and people start to hunker down and really worry about how's this going to turn out? What's going to happen? Now, wouldn't it be interesting to have an opportunity to look inside the minds of these people, to figure out what's going in there? Why are they not working together? What's causing them to pull apart? And how might we change that thinking and behavior to be more effective?